Hello and welcome to the Shadows Over Innistrad box opening here at Comic Town. I'm JP and I'm joined this time by Jacob.
Hello.
And we're going to be opening up this box to show you what goodies you can get when this set releases on April 8th. However, we did want to talk to you about some of the events we have coming up here at the store. First up is, as is traditional, the Win-A-Box FNMs that we have going on.
The rest of the month of April, we'll be having Win-A-Box Draft and Standard. First place will be getting a box, and second through 8 will be splitting 2 boxes from those events.
And we've also got our Classic series coming back. We have the Spring Classic, which is going to be happening on April 9th. That's a standard event that is a 2K where the top 16 players will be splitting $2,000 in cash prizes. The top 16 will also be receiving a limited edition mat that was created just for this event. We'll show you the art for that mat here in just a moment. But for now, let's get to the booster box. As we mentioned earlier, we do have a custom art mat by Matt Northrup for the Spring Classic that's going to be happening on the 9th. Only the top 16 players get this gorgeous Innistrad-inspired art. Speaking of Innistrad itself, we do have the booster box here of Shadows Over Innistrad and the buy box promo you will get for purchasing the set. It's got gorgeous alternate art for Elusive Tormentor that features one of the main mechanics of Innistrad, double-sided cards. Cards that have art and mechanics on both sides of the card and that they change what the card does when we flip to the other side. Of course, this is limited while supplies last, so make sure you come down and get your boxes as quickly as possible. But now, let's dive into the booster box. All right, so got a little hole here. So, what are the rares that you're kind of excited to see out of the set, Jacob?
The main rares and mythics from the set are obviously the Planeswalker cards that are hot ticket items, and Westvale Abbey is a card that I'm really excited about because the card provides utility and a late game for decks that usually don't have that.
Nice. Well, let's see if we open any of those cards here in our first pack of Shadows Over Innistrad. So as is typical, we're going to be tunneling all the way to the back to see the rare, and we'll be commentating on that card and showing you the rest of the pack while we go. And our rare is Invocation of St. Traft. Now, for those of you who remember the original Innistrad set, you'll probably remember the card Geist of St. Traft, which was a 2/2 spirit for this exact same mana cost, that when it attacked, you got to put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying into play and attacking that you exiled at the end of turn. You'll notice converted mana cost is the same, but this is an aura, so you can put it on any creature, and that creature gets to summon a 4/4 white attacking angel every single combat.
This card is it's not as good as Geist of St. Traft, but it can provide utility by putting on it cards with evasion, which was the problem with Geist of St. Traft.
Exactly, evasion with this guy is great. There is our double-sided card, and we got foil here. This is Olivia's Bloodsworn. It can't block, but it can make other vampires that you control gain haste until end of turn, so it makes your other vampires attack very quickly and limited. We do have a checklist card, which you can use these cards in your packs to represent your double-sided cards, which helps you in case you aren't playing with sleeves because you're playing limited, or in case you are playing with sleeves that you can see through the back of and you want to use the checklist cards. Our token is a zombie. Let's move on to the next pack.
We're going to go straight to the rare and show you the comments on the way there.
And our rare is
some card I don't know how to pronounce.
this card, Triskaidekaphobia, which happens to be the fear of the number 13. While there are 13 blood marks on the wall, and 13 knives, and 13 stones in the fireplace. Which is also interesting because this has the trigger at the beginning of the upkeep that if a player has exactly 13 life, they lose the game, and then everybody loses or gains 1 life of the player's choice. This is a super, super flavorful card. I don't see this making any constructed impact.
I don't. There will be obviously people that build around it, but I don't think it'll be a major player.
Yeah,
in the
I think
standard format.
it's more of a fun casual card, but that's where it'll land. We do have our double-sided card next, and then after that we have our basic land and token. And let's head to the next pack. And we have Avacyn here on the front of our next pack. And the pack is fighting me back. All right, let's see what we've got here. And our rare is Markov Dread Knight. That is a 3/3 flyer for 5. You can pay 3, one of which is black, and discard a card, and put 2 +1/+1 counters on this card. I think this goes back into the category where we were talking earlier. This is more of a limited bomb than it is a constructed bomb, but it's still very, very powerful card in limited.
Yeah, this card will be one of the chase rares you're looking for in limited. It provides your outlet to madness and a strong evasive creature.
We have our uncommon, and we have a foil in Alms of the Vein, which is a sorcery for 2 and a black. And this card has Madness. So Madness is very interesting in the fact that this is a card that has an alternate casting cost that you can pay if you discard this card. So if an effect would make you discard a card like a Thoughtseize or a Mind Twist of some sort, instead of discarding this card, you can pay black, and then you get to put this on the stack instead and cast this card for less than its original less than its original mana cost, which is pretty interesting for some of the cards we'll see. We have our checklist card and our clue, and let's head to the next pack. So I guess my one question about this card is this card constructed playable?
Yeah, I think this card will be constructed playable. It provides just a big body for little mana and card draw that usually green does not get.
Fair assessment. Let's see what our flip card is. Looks like we've got a Solitary Hunter right there with the checklist card for him and our insect token. Let's head on to our next pack. A couple of the commons here, so we'll move a little bit more quickly through. And our rare happens to be a mythic. This is the Wolf of Devil's Breach. Whenever he attacks, you can pay 1 and a red and discard a card. If you do, he deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to that discarded card's mana cost. So first of all, 5/5 for 5, great body. Fact that you can pitch cards with his attacking to destroy some stuff that either would be a blocker or take care of a problem planeswalker is also great, which is reach that red often doesn't get in its decks.
No, it does not. And this card will be, one of the best limited cards you can get. It's removal on a creature that you don't have to waste cards for.
Fair enough. Our double-sided card is a Convicted Killer. We have a rare checklist card. Haven't seen any rare double-sided cards yet. A zombie token. Let's head on to the next pack.
Let's move a little bit quickly through the commons this time.
And our rare is a Slayer's Plate. We have been opening quite a few excellent cards for limited in these packs.
Yeah, this card is also one of the best limited cards you can get. It's provides creatures and a very, very good equipment.
Yeah, I heard some people at the pre-release comparing this card to Butcher's Cleaver, which was one of the most broken equipment in the first Innistrad because you gained so much life off of it. And also, if you could equip it to an Invisible Stalker, it just couldn't be dealt with. This is very similar in the fact that you get an evasive creature off this if it was equipped to a human that died. This is something, if you're opening packs for your drafts this weekend, this is 100% something you want to see. Of course, we do have our flip card in another Solitary Hunter. We have our basic land and devil token. Let's move on to the next pack. Moving right on through the commons and uncommons. And our rare is a Harness the Storm. 2 and a red for an enchantment where if you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, you get to cast target spell with the same name as that card from your graveyard, but you still have to pay the mana cost. Initially when I saw this card, I was like, Storm in Modern would love this card, and then I saw the reminder text at the bottom that said you still have to pay the cost of the card.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. There's been rumblings about it, even with that drawback. But I think it'll be a really good commander card.
I think
No,
I was about to say,
never mind.
interesting commander card where you can't play multiples of cards in a deck. It's a fun build around me card for sure. We have Uvenwald Geist as our flip-sided card, basic land and spirit token. Let's move to the next pack.
Move quickly through the uncommons and commons.
And our rare is Second Harvest.
This card is and will be a good commander card, not like the other card. Goes really well with tokens. It's even, very interesting with clue tokens in draft.
That's a really good point. Like, if you've got 2 or 3 clues just sitting around and you pop this out on the field, you go from 3 clue tokens to 6 clue tokens. If you've got like a spirit or a wolf out there as well, you get an extra one of those.
Yep.
And I think you're very right. I think that the token-themed Tristani and Wrist decks just absolutely 100% want this card, and they're 99. We have our flip card in the Hinterland Logger, our basic land and clue token that we just mentioned. Let's move on to the next pack. Powering through to our rare. And we have Engulf the Shore. It's an instant for 3 and a blue, and you return to their owner's hands all creatures with toughness less than or equal to the number of islands you control. This is interesting. Again, I think one of the things that Innistrad has done is it's given you a lot of build-around cards for all constructed formats, and I think it's going to be interesting to see where deck builders take a lot of these build-around cards. This could be a premier sweeper, or this could be just a acceptably okay card.
Yeah, there's not a lot of islands in the format unless you're basics and the Battle for Zendikar lands. So it might be very good or it could be very bad.
Indeed. We have our double-sided card in Kessig Forgemaster, our basic land and clue token. Let's head on to the next pack.
Go quickly through the commons.
And our rare is not a rare. This is a mythic, the
Gitrog
monster. So walk us through this, Jacob.
This card is really good. It at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice land. You can play additional land on each of your turns, and whenever a land card is put into a graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. This card is
but that's specifically put into your graveyard.
In your graveyard,
right? Which is a little bit relevant in case you're facing another Gitrog monster, or your opponent just have other ways to sacrifice their own lands. But I mean, 6/6 for 5 is great, and the fact that you can turn that upside into, or the downside of sacking lands into extra cards and extra land drops seems perfectly fine for playing this in some sort of junk or rock deck.
This card with Dredge is also really good.
Oh, that's a good point.
With Life from the Loan, you get extra lands and card draw.
Seems good. We'll move right on along to our double-sided card, which is the Heir of Falkenrath. We have a foil rare here in Traverse the Uvenwald, which has Delirium. This is our first instance of Delirium. The card has an initial effect of searching your library for a basic land and putting it into your hand and then shuffling your library. But if you have Delirium, which means you have 4 or more types of cards in your graveyard, instead of searching for it and putting it into your hand, you get to search your library for a creature or a land and then put it into your hand. So it gives you a little bit more versatility once you get later in the game and you've played some cards.
Yeah, this card's very good in late game with the ramp deck and standard. You can go get your Ulamogs and such. So, it's a very good card.
Sounds good. We've got our checklist card and our clue. Let's move on. And powering through to the back of the pack. And our rare is the Diagraph Colossus. This is a 2 and a black for a 2/2, and he enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter for each zombie in your graveyard. And when you cast a zombie spell with him on the battlefield, you get to put a 2/2 zombie onto the battlefield tapped as a token creature. There have been talks about a zombie deck in Standard. There was obviously a spike for the Zombie Lord.
Risen Executioner.
Thank you, Risen Executioner, which seems to make this guy quite large if you've got a couple of them on the battlefield or in the graveyard. They're just great in the graveyard. And not to mention there's the black 2/2 zombie.
Relentless Dead.
Yes, Relentless Dead, that's also in this set. Could be the shell of a zombie deck.
Could be.
We'll see what
also,
happens.
can enter the battlefield from Collecting Company.
Ah, good point. We could have Zombie Collected Company. That's just weird. We have a Thraben Gargoyle as our double-sided card, checklist card, and clue token. Let's head to the next pack.
Let's power through this pack.
Our rare in this pack is a Silver Fur Partisan. There we go. We can read cards.
This card was talked about being in a wolf or werewolf deck in Standard. It can be collected accompanied, and it says whenever a werewolf or wolf you control becomes a target of a instant or sorcery spell, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token on the battlefield.
So, I mean, I guess as long as this guy becomes targeted by a removal spell, at the very least you're getting a 2/2 to replace him with if he becomes too big of an issue.
Yeah, the card is very good.
Seems fair. Next card is a Kindly Stranger. And we do have our first rare flip card. So one of the interesting things about the Shadows Over Innistrad packs is that if you have a flip card in the rare slot, you'll actually get 2 rares in your pack. So the rare here we have is Hanwar Militia Captain, which if you control 4 or more creatures in your upkeep, you get to transform him. And he becomes quite large because now you have a Westvale Cult Leader, which happens to have power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control, and at the beginning of your end step, you get a black and white cleric creature token to make him even bigger as his following gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We'll keep moving on past. We have a rare flip card. This is the first one of those that we've seen, and a clue token. Let's hit the next pack. Oh, heading on through to the rare in this pack. And our rare in this pack is the Cryptolith Rite, which is a 1 and a green enchantment giving creatures you control tap and add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So it basically turns all of the creatures in your deck into Birds of Paradise, or gives all of your creatures essentially multicolor Convoke. This card seems quite powerful in Standard.
Yes, it does. There is a deck in Standard where you play a lot of creature sacrifice and scion making to power out your big creatures, and this card is one of the key points of that deck.
Yeah, the fact that you can turn your scions instead of sacking for colorless mana, now they just turn your scions into Birds of Paradise. That
Or
seems
2 mana.
Or 2 mana. Gosh, that's good lord. Didn't think about that. That's absurd. We do have our double-sided card here in Skin Invasion, our checklist card, and Vampire Knight token. Let's move on.
We can get right back to the rare. And our rare is
Rattle Chains.
this card is pretty interesting. Flash flying. Whenever Rattle Chains enter the battlefield, target spirit gains hexproof until end of turn. You may cast spirit spells as though they had flash.
So it seems to be that this... So for me as a player who's been around for a while, obviously this reminds me of the Una's... whatever the fairy
Scion of
lord...
Una.
Yeah, Scion of Una, the fairy lord. They gave all your fairies Shroud. The fact that this can basically counter a spell targeting one of your spirits seems like it's hinting at Spirit Tribal. I don't think it's quite as powerful because it doesn't give lasting hexproof like Drug Captain did out of Dark Ascension. Could be interesting. We'll see what happened to the Spirits deck. We have our double-sided card in Hinterland Logger, basic land and token. Let's head to our next pack. We have an Angelic Purge to start this pack off with. Let's head on through to the rare in the pack. And our rare is Audric, Lunarch Marshal. So those of you who played, was that in 14?
In 13 or 14.
13 or 14, who had the original Audric in it, who had a very early version of Battalion on him. This is the new Audric, same or similar converted mana cost, but now he's giving lots and lots of crazy keywords to all of your creatures when you enter your combat step, depending on what abilities your creatures have. So if you've got someone with First Strike, congratulations, all your guys now have First Strike. Same for Flying, Death Touch, Double Strike, Haste, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace, Reach, Skulk, Trample, Vigilance, and even if one of them has an Ice Cream Cone, all of your creatures get an Ice Cream Cone.
That would make your team very happy.
Yes.
To have Ice Cream.
Question on this though, so from the peanut gallery, is it just your combat, or
It's
is it
both combat.
It
each
is the
com-
beginning of each combat. So you could get double Ice Cream Cones, depending on if your creatures had Ice
Double
Cream Cones.
scoops.
Yeah, double, hashtag double scoops. We have our double-sided card, an Autumnal Gloom token, and Devil. Let's head on to the next pack. And the rare is Avacyn's Judgment. Now, for those of you who haven't been following the story of Innistrad that closely, the big story is behind this. Avacyn used to be the protector of all the humans on Innistrad, and now she's gotten a little bit crazy.
Yeah, then Soren had to...
We don't know about that yet. We haven't seen that
Okay. This card deals 2 damage divided as you choose without its madness cost. With its madness cost, if you were to discard this card, you could pay red and X and split fireball things.
Mm-hmm. That seems like if there is a red madness deck, which I'm going to assume one exists in Standard, this card is probably getting played in that.
Yeah.
Like fireball split as you choose at instant speed seems quite powerful.
It deals with early aggressive decks and can be a late game finisher if needed to be.
Fantastic. We have our flip card in the pack in Lampholt Pacifist, our token and token. Let's head to the next pack. And heading down to the rare. And our rare in this pack is Altered Ego. Not Alter Ego, it is your Altered Ego because you have this guy, he's basically entering as a clone, but if you pay any X in his cost other than X of 0, he gets additional +1/+1 counters equal to that X. This seems to me like a super duper flavorful, super duper fun, major win for this set as far as the flavor is concerned.
Yeah, and it also cannot be countered, which is very nice. And the foils of this card look very amazing.
Yeah, like this is screaming flavor and screams pretty good as well if you need some sort of green-blue finisher. We have our double-sided card in Neglected Heirloom. We have a foil here in Pale Rider of Trostad. We have our checklist card and clue. Let's head to the next pack.
Let's work our way toward the rare.
And our rare is Burn from Within.
This card is very interesting. It does something that no card before, to my knowledge, has done, which is destroyed indestructible creatures.
That seems good. And there have been cards that have been printed that said a target card loses indestructible, along with some of the costs of the card, but rarely have we seen it in a removal spell that's dealing X damage that can really destroy any indestructible thing.
And this is also just fireball. Needed to be. It can go to the face, which is something red mages like to do.
Indeed. We have our flip card in Gastoff Aeromancer, something like that. And we have our checklist and token card. Let's move to the next pack. We'll be pressing ahead into this pack. And there we'll discover our rare is the Bygone Bishop. It is a flying 2/3 for 3, and whenever you cast a creature spell with converted mana cost 3 or less, you get to investigate. We've talked a little bit about investigation. When you investigate, you get to put a colorless clue token onto the battlefield that reads 2, sacrifice it, draw a card. This gives white card draw, which is not something they often get. This does seem a little bit build around me. Like you've been talking about, Collected Company seems to like this card because this seems to be super Collected Company friendly. We have Aberrant Researcher here, which is the elder cousin of Delver of Secrets. We have the rare that we talked about before, the Elusive Tormentor, which is also the Buy a Box promo. We have our rare checklist card and clue. Let's head to the next pack.
And our rare is Fortified Village. This is one of the new Innistrad lands. It comes in the battlefield tapped if you do not reveal a forest or plains card from your hand, but comes into play untapped if you do so.
Exactly. It wants you to play with some amount of plains and forests or whatever land you want. You could also reveal some of the Zendikar lands, which seem to play well with this to help you have your mana come in untapped. We have our double-sided card, our checklist, and our clue token. Let's head to the next pack. And tunneling through. Our rare is Scourge Wolf. This is a 2/2 first strike for 2 red, and with the Delirium mechanic we talked about earlier, he ends up getting double strike, which seems quite powerful. This seems like the burn card red decks want.
Yes, the Delirium might be might be difficult to do in red with hard to get a land in your graveyard, but
Exactly. But hey, 2/2 for first strike seems fine for me. We have the double-sided card. We have our foil here in Puncturing Light, destroying attacking or blocking creatures with power 3 or less for 2 mana. A token card and a spirit. Let's head to the next pack.
we adjust the wind here, and let's try to get to the rare.
And our rare is Sorin, Grim Nemesis. I believe this is one of the planeswalkers you were talking about at the beginning of the filming.
Yes, I was. This card is very, very good. It's one of the only
I'm
things
actually
you can
trying
say
to think of
about
a format other than Modern or Legacy where this card maybe isn't the best thing to be printed right now.
it. Yeah, it gives you +1 card draw with the upside, which we do not see often in a planeswalker. -X with Sorin dealing damage, X damage to target creature or planeswalker, and you gain X life. And -9 is you put a number of 1/1 black vampire knight tokens equal to your life total, I believe.
Actually, highest life total among all players. So
Okay.
basically,
Yeah.
you put lethal in 1/1 dudes on the battlefield if you're able to activate his ultimate ability. Honestly, you're probably plussing this to draw cards and drain your opponent, or to just basically gain life and kill off opposing creatures and planeswalkers. This guy's super powerful. Definitely will be making an impact at the Classic and all the other major events happening this weekend. We have our double-sided card in Solitary Hunter, and we have our foil, another rare in Prized Amalgam.
Yeah, this card is one of the zombie cards that might be getting played in the standard zombie deck. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, if it enters the battlefield from your graveyard, or you cast it from your graveyard, return prized amalgam to the battlefield tapped at the beginning of the next end step.
So, like zombies, wants to have more zombies come out. Let's head on to that token, and let's move on. Putting the pieces of the puzzle together as we move through the pack. Yes, I know the puns are terrible. Don't remind me. We have our rare in this pack in a Mythic, Golden Knight Castigator, a 4/9 for 4, which is huge. It's flying and it's got haste, but it comes with some major drawbacks. Specifically, if a source would deal damage to you, it deals double that damage instead. And if a source would deal damage to this angel, it gets to deal double that damage to the angel as well. So, big, powerful thing that leads to you taking quite a bit of damage.
It does. This card might be a finisher in the red decks, but also it plays very well with Assault Formation, being a 9-power tower.
Exactly. We have Hermit of the Natternulls for our flip card. And we'll move on to the next pack.
And the rare is Port Town. This is another one of the lands from Shadows where you reveal plains or island from your hand and it comes battlefield untapped.
We've already spoken about this card. However, this is some of the mana fixing that we've got going into standard. We have Abyssinian Missionaries as our flip card. We have the token and the token. Let's move on. Yeah, I don't have a pun for this one. Let's just see what the rare is. I thought real hard about it for a second, though. All right, our rare in this pack is what some people have been calling some of the best removal in standard, Declaration in Stone. One of the premier removal pieces in the set in Declaration in Stone in this pack, exiling a creature and all other creatures of the same name that that opponent controls. You do have the drawback here of that player investigating for each of those creatures exiled, but I think getting rid of your opponent's huge threats is a much better price than a random card that they have to pay 2 mana to draw.
Yeah, this card's, premier removal. We'll see standard play. It is a sorcery, but not that big of a drawback. This is one of the only cards that can deal with Sorin's Ultimate in one card.
Too true. And not to mention, if they're non-token creatures, you don't get to draw cards. All right, we have our double-sided card here in Hinterland Logger. We have a Thing in the Ice, which is, we talk about premier removal in this set. You want to talk one of the most hyped cards in the set. Thing in the Ice is definitely one of them that seems very, very interesting to me as someone who got burned on investing in Ludovic's test subjects in the first Innistrad, and that didn't seem to pan out so well. I think the big thing about this, it is an 0/4. It has 4 ice counters on it. When you cast an instant or sorcery, which in a blue deck you're typically doing anyway, after you cast 4 of them and he has no more ice counters on it, you get to transform it. And the transform side, unlike Ludovic's test subject, which was just a giant 13/13 trampler, this guy bounces all other creatures in play whenever he turns face up.
Yeah, this card has been hyped really, a lot. It's being talked about seeing play in, even Vintage, Legacy, and Modern.
Modern's been the one where I've heard the most talk in some Storm builds. We have our rare flip card to go with our rare and a clue. Let's head to the next pack.
I can't do the puns, so
What a punt.
we can piece this puzzle together, I guess.
And our rare is Angel of Deliverance.
This card was, I believe, one of the intro deck rares.
Which typically means great and limited, not so great outside of that.
6 mana flyer for 8. The Delirium, whenever it deals damage, If there are 4 or more card types in your graveyard, exile target creature and opponent controls. That is very strong.
Yeah. Seems like a finisher in a limited deck to me. We have our double-sided card in the Harvest hand, and our token and token. Let's move on to the next pack. So we'll be dauntless in our pursuit of the rare in this pack. Not as good as LSV, but close. And our rare in this pack is the Prized Amalgam, which we talked about when we saw him in foil in the other pack. So we'll jump past this key of the zombie deck to see our double-sided card in the Town Gossip Mongerer, a basic land and a clue. Let's head to the next pack.
The most difficult pack.
And the rare is another one of the check lands. We've talked about these a couple times before. Core New Mana Fixing.
Yep. And let's move on.
Moving on, we have a Convicted Killer, a checklist card, and a Spirit token. Let's check our next pack out. Yeah, the nice thing I like about once we get to the end of these is you don't have to be so militant about talking about all of the cards. So let's go ahead and find out what our next rare is. And that rare just happens to be a Soul Swallower. This is a 3/3 trampler for 4, but it has Delirium, which if the Delirium trigger is met at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to put 3 more cards on this guy. So in one turn, it goes from being a 3/3 to a 6/6, and then on the next turn, it turns into a 9/9 and a 12/12 and a 15/15, and just keeps going up, 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 up. And with Trample, it's gonna push through that damage eventually.
Yeah, this card was also one of the intro deck rares and has one of the weirdest arts in the set.
Too true. It is exactly what it is described to be. It is a soul-swallowing worm. We have the Uninvited Geist, a rare, or not a rare, but a foil here in destroying target artifact or enchantment and investigating with Root Out, our checklist card and clue token. Let's head to the next pack.
Let's get to the rare if we can.
And the rare is an Inexorable Blob.
This card has Delirium. If there are 4 more card types in your graveyard, whenever you attack, you get a 3/3 ooze. The flavor of this card is very cool, you know, making more oozes when it attacks.
That's one of the greatest things about Innistrad is it's always flavorful. We have our double-sided card in the Gastoff Arsonists. We have a rare this time in the Gyre Reach Bandit, which is a 3/2 haster for 2. What happens when we flip it over if it... So this is a werewolf.
Yeah.
One of the things we haven't talked about is we haven't seen a lot of werewolves yet. The werewolf mechanic is if a player doesn't cast a spell, these creatures transform.
And if they transform into...
I'm not going to try to read this card upside down because I'm having trouble reading upside down, but the effect is whenever a werewolf enters the battlefield while this guy is out and transformed, it immediately transforms. So this gets around one of the drawbacks of the werewolf cards, which is you don't want to cast more than 2 spells in a turn, but with this guy out, you can cast your 1 spell and be fine and get the transform out of it. We have our rare checklist card and clue. Let's head to our next booster pack. All right, let's ride the storm to our rare. Jacob is totally over the puns at this point.
They're just hilarious.
Sure, dear, don't patronize me. Our rare is the Drownyard Temple. This taps to add a colorless mana. We see the colorless mana making a little bit of a return there from the Oath of the Gatewatch set. And then for 3, you can return this card from your graveyard tapped. That's some real interesting text.
Yeah, I think that this gives the standard players really a nice outlet to use mana once they dump a lot of cards in their graveyard.
If they're playing the Delirium deck, it seems like if you mill this guy over, it's easy to pay that 3 and ramp this right on out. We have our double-sided card in Solitary Hunter, basic land and spirit token. Let's hit up the next pack. We have 5 to go.
See if we can push to the rare here. And the rare is Epiphany at the Drown Yard. This card is very interesting. It blue and X instant. For the top X cards, plus
So you revealed
X plus
1, and then this is very similar to a lot of the cards we've gotten recently, where it's kind of an inverted fact or fiction. So you get X plus 1 cards from the top of your deck, sort them into 2 piles. An opponent chooses one of those piles, and you get to put that in your hand, and the other pile goes to your graveyard. Card draw, always good, especially at instant speed. We have a Pious Evangel for our double-sided card, token and token. Let's go to pack 4 left. Yeah, I got nothing. Let's just go to the rare. And our rare this time just happens to be a Welcome to the Fold. So this is sort of the control magic effect of the set. If you cast it regular, you get to control target creature if its toughness is 2 or less. If you pay it for its madness cost, which means you cast it when you discard it, you can pay X, and then you get to take creature of target toughness X or less. Seems built for a madness deck if one exists. We have the Kessage Forge Master here, checklist and token. Let's hit our 3rd remaining pack.
Very difficult to open these packs. Let's get to the rare. And the rare is
Drogskull Cavalry.
this is, I believe, one of the intro rares out of.
Yeah, I can't
the
remember if it
deck.
was the 2/3 that draws you cards or if it was this guy. It's one of the 2.
This card, 4/4 flyer for 7. Whenever spirit enters the battlefield, you can gain 2 life, and you can pay 4
to
put
make
a
spirits
spirit.
enter the battlefield. Again, graded limited, probably too expensive for constructed. Convicted Killer, land, token. 2 packs remaining. Oh, now I'm having trouble with the booster packs. Oh, no, there wasn't too much trouble there. It was just the wind. Let's go ahead and blow through the pack to get... All right, we're going to go ahead and blow through this pack to get through to the rare. And our rare in this pack is Confirm Suspicion. This is a 5-mana counterspell that allows you to investigate 3 times should this spell resolve. So over time, the spell's going to draw you quite a bit of cards. The question is there a late game deck in Standard that even wants this card to draw that many cards in kind of an extended manner?
There's a lot better cards than this, but it does draw you 3 cards eventually, which is also good.
Yeah, it's what some of these long-range counterspell decks want. So maybe this is the card they want. Who knows? It could be a late bloomer, kind of like Hardened Scales ended up being.
Oh yeah.
We have the Aberrant Researcher here, token and token. Let's go to our last booster pack.
Let's see if we can end this in a exciting fashion.
Maybe we can be a blessing to this pack and get to the rare. Yeah, that was just bad. So the rare in here is a card we've already seen before, which is Traverse the Uvenwald, the spell that helps you search creatures and or lands. We have a Kindly Stranger and a foil, the Lamplighter of Seloth.
I'm not sure what this card does.
Neither do I.
When it enters the battlefield, if you control another zombie, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card.
Okay, so he lets you loot if you have a zombie.
Yep. Cards bind and limited.
Seems good. We have our rare checklist card and our final token card of the booster box. Thanks for watching our booster box opening. We just wanted to remind you one more time about the 2 major events we have coming up here at the store. We of course have our Win a Box F&M month.
For the rest of April, first place of both our standard and draft events, we'll be getting a box. 2nd through 8th, we'll be splitting 2 booster boxes of those events.
And of course, coming up this weekend on April 9th, we have our Comic Town Spring Classic. This is a 2K tournament splitting $2,000 between the top 16 players, and if you come in 1st through 6th, you get this custom mat with art by Matt Northrop. Hopefully we'll see you out here at the store soon, and enjoy Shadows Over Innistrad.